The DCEU has finally come to an end, so you know what that means. Tier ranking. Hello everybody, my name is Rudy. I'm a Gen Xer who provides movie reviews from a Gen Xer's point of view, and today I'm going to do my DCEU tier ranking list. I know I'm late to the game, but again, for those of you who've been following me, you know that I was sick with COVID last week, and I'm running a little behind with all the videos, so I'm going to finally knock it out today. And again, you also know that I am a DC fan. I mean, it goes back to the 80s and 90s when I grew up with the Superman films and the Batman films. At one point in Hollywood's era, they were the #1 film as far as comic book movies went. Things have certainly changed since then, and I blame that all on leadership. And again, when it comes to the DCU, my final thoughts on that were, it's a bit frustrating because we never really got to see it become what it was supposed to be. The original plan that Zack Snyder had, I was on board with it. They were going for a grounded, darker tone approach, which we all love with the Dark Knight trilogy. It had everything it needed to become something great or something better than what it ended up being. And of course, with knee-jerk reactions, horrible leadership, and just indecisive decisions when it comes to a narrative, tone, and structure, it became a shit show, a laughingstock. Everyone just kind of pointed fun at this film, at the films and the franchise, and it never became what it was supposed to become. And I hope it's a great example for leaders and moving forward to say, hey, this is how you don't do it. You leave the artist alone. If you have a plan, you stick with it. You make minor adjustments as the road goes along if it doesn't work out, but don't change structure of it halfway through. Don't try to force a Batman v Superman movie that comes way too soon when we haven't established a new Batman yet or any other characters. But again, that being said, I think there's still a lot of great films within the catalog, so I'm going to go over them in a tier ranking video today. And if you're wondering why I don't have the lights on here in front of my camera, I have allergies, just really severe allergies, and my eye is swollen. It looks like I got punched in the eye. And I didn't want it to be a distraction on the video. So I have the lights down here, just kind of give it a little bit of ambiance. So let's go ahead and get started with this DC rankings. Okay, well, here's my tier list, everybody. And again, I have it ranked from masterpiece to very good to mid, as the young millennials say, forgettable, and absolute trash. Those are my rankings for this tier list. And all of them are here as recent as Blue Beetle, as recent as The Flash, as recent as Aquaman 2. So here's the entire filmography. Let's go ahead and get started. And again, I'm going to start with Aquaman Part 2, The Lost Kingdom. I just posted a review on this. And again, I wasn't expecting much for the Aquaman movies. Again, I did not like Part 1 as much as everybody loved. You know, I thought it was fun. I thought it was very cheesy. I called it an under the sea space opera. Very cheesy, very hokey, great costume design, great characters, great aliens, great fun overall story. But again, the tone of it was a little too silly for me because again, I like the darker stuff. But I understand it was a success. You know, it had a huge demographic pool with women going to the theater. I remember going to the movies and seeing nothing but women there because they were there to see Jason Momoa. So again, going to see Part 2, I was not expecting anything more or less than that initial viewing. And that's exactly what I got. I don't know why people are shitting on Aquaman The Lost Kingdom as much as they are. It's not as bad as they say it is. It is just as good, if not equal to the original Aquaman. I just think it's just a victim of the market right now. Everybody knows this DCEU is over, so not many people are taking it seriously. People are going with a negative connotation and a negative lens when it comes to this. So again, they're just really dismissing it before even watching it. So I think that's contributing to the overall tone. But take that away, it's still a decent Aquaman movie. It's again just as good, if not equal to the original. So, but again, I wasn't a big fan of the original, so I'm just going to say it was mid. It was okay. Will I buy it? Probably not. It was okay. So that's my ranking for Aquaman, The Lost Kingdom. Birds of Prey, this one, I remember I posted a review giving it a 95 when it initially came out because I had liked the theme and the overall tone of the film. It felt like a crazy Harley Quinn movie kind of going along the Deadpool type of, you know, viewing experience, just with this crazy cuts, breaking the fourth wall, animation scenes here and there. It was fun, but again, when you compare it to everything else, she's starting off the film that she broke up with Mr. J, but again, that relationship really wasn't solidified with the previous films because they just butchered David Ayer's Suicide Squad, which, you know, honestly, I hope we get to see one day. But this one, if it was a good movie, if it wasn't included in a universe, DCEU universe, I think it would be good. It's a great Harley Quinn movie. I like the characters in the film. Again, does it fit the universe that it's kind of like saying it belongs into? No, it doesn't. Does it have some issues? Yes, it does. But again, the movie of it, it's a Harley Quinn experience. It's a Harley Quinn movie. And I enjoyed it. But again, as far as its ranking, I'm just going to say it's mid. As far as the other films, I didn't buy it. Will I talk about it again? No. Will there be a thesis written about it 20 years from now? I don't know. Probably not. But I didn't enjoy it at all. I mean, it was okay. Very forgettable. Now, Black Adam. That's the next one here. So Black Adam, I gave it a decent review. I remember calling it last year when I saw it. This is going to be a film that finally DC fans and Marvel fans can agree on that, hey, this was a fun film. It was a great experience. It was a fun movie. Again, I am not expecting anything like masterpiece level. I am not expecting anything other than a superhero origin movies. In any origin movie, there has to be some magic. There has to be some fun in discovering and seeing this person, this protagonist, discover their powers and find out who they are. That's always a fun journey. The first ones are always great. Black Adam, again, it's the Rock. He's got no invulnerabilities. He can't be hurt. No one can stop him. He's the strongest person there is, just like he's contractually obligated to be in every one of his films. Like, from what I understand, he can't lose a fight or get knocked down in any one of his movies. That's my phone. Let me turn this off. 1 second. But again, I thought it was a fun movie. I thought the tone was fun. It was also serious, a little dark at times. But again, I gave it a positive review. But again, in hindsight, I haven't bought it. I haven't thought about it since, and nor do I own it. And it's like, it's forgettable. It's forgettable. Black Adam, to me, is the equivalent of Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness, Ant-Man 1, 2, Thor 1, 2, and 3. And I haven't seen 3, but it's like one of those forgettable superhero movies. It's great for what it is, but again, is it a revisable? No. Again, with The Rock kind of ruining the universe, having Henry Cavill come back in, this being Henry Cavill's last appearance, it really leaves a bad taste in my mouth. So again, as far as the film, it was fun when I initially saw it. I gave it a positive review, but a year later, I'm going to say it's mid. It's okay. You know what? No, I'm changing mine. It's forgettable. It's okay. It's just not what I expected it to be. Okay, so moving forward here, let me see. The next one is Blue Beetle. Now, again, as I said in my Aquaman The Lost Kingdom review, I didn't give a shit about Blue Beetle. I didn't care about the character. I like playing as him in Injustice 2, the video game. But again, I heard a lot of positive things about it, but I had no interest in going to the theater and seeing it because at that point, after The Flash, I just checked out. I was done. And I saw it on HBO Max, Thanksgiving weekend, I believe. And you know what? I loved it. I thought it was very good. And again, being a Latino, I got all the references with Marita in the barrio. I got the Vix references, Chapulín. I got all those references as a Latino. I was like, hey, this is pretty cool. It's made for us, Latino. So again, all the jokes, I know a lot of people may not have got them, but all the references I absolutely got. And I enjoyed it, but it wasn't just the references that won me over. It was just the chemistry with the family, the character. I forget his name. I call him Miguel. I know that's not his name, but he did a fantastic job because he has that vulnerability and that sympathy, also that empathy of a protagonist should have when there's an origin story. You're rooting for them. They're really not doing all that great. They're down on their luck, and we sympathize with that. We want them to succeed and win. And it brought a lot of humility even to the villains. I remember that last sequence when he's fighting the bad guy, right? And you actually got to understand he wanted to kill him for what he had done to his father. But again, we got a glimpse of the human side of the villain, of where he came from and what he seemed to understand the perspective. So I'm like, oh, that's a nice touch. Susan Sarandon was just a forgettable villain, but that other villain in the Iron Man red suit, that was really good. But I really enjoyed it. And again, I lost my father last year. So I try to avoid any father-son movie moments, to be completely vulnerable and transparent with you right now. And there's a sequence in the film while he's discovering who he is and accepting who he must be. He sees his dad in the afterlife, and I broke down. It just really hit me hard because it was done beautifully. And it made sense for the character. And then he moves on to become who he's going to be. And it was a very positive, uplifting origin movie. And I hadn't felt that magic in an origin movie since maybe a Spider-Man movie. And I loved it. So, you know what, Blue Beetle, I'm going to say it was very good. It was very good. It deserves more praise than what it gotten. It's a victim of the market. It should not have flopped. I think this will be a film that other people will appreciate. And I don't know for certain. I've heard kind of stories here and there that James Gunn said this was potentially one of the first new DC movies that were going to be part of the universe. I hope so, because the overall look, feel, aesthetic, and characters and world that it built, I love it. So again, Blue Beetle, I absolutely dug it. The original Joss Whedon, Justice League. It is absolute shit. This movie is not only bad, but it's just a result of meddling with an artist's vision when they should not have touched it. It's a product of knee-jerk reactions. It's a product of poor leadership. This film is the embodiment, the afterbirth, the bile waste in a toilet of what the leadership in the Warner Brothers had done. This is the absolute result of it, and that movie is an atrocity. And it angers me because Zack Snyder, if you love him or hate him, I'm not going to try to convince you that he's an awesome guy. Whatever you feel about him, whatever is fine. But I think we can all empathize that he's a director who's got a very he's got a clear vision of what these films should be. And his daughter, you know, there was a horrible tragedy in his family. He took a leave of absence because, again, any parent would understand. And what does the studio do? They bring in a director to finish his film, but what they did is they took that loss, that opportunity, to butcher his vision. And if you've seen the original cut and what the Zack Snyder cut looks like, there's a direct comparison there. And this film is an atrocity, and this is utter trash, what they did to Zack Snyder in that film. So again, Justice League, complete trash. Man of Steel. Oh my God. This, in my opinion, and I'm sure many others, there's what's that guy's name? There's a few other critics out there that agree with me on this, but this is probably one of the best films of the DCEU, and probably one of the best comic book films of the past 20 years. I honestly say it's a masterpiece. It's going to go up there. I know a lot of people don't like Man of Steel. I know a lot of people always say he's not Superman. People say that's not how Superman is. He had no point did he try to save people. All those comparisons that I hear, all those critiques that I hear are horrible. They're weak critiques because, again, you can't compare the Christopher Reeve Superman to what they were doing here. In this movie, it's a different world. It wasn't Superman that changed. It was a world that he was born into. It was a very cynical world, a world that you couldn't trust. And it was hard to accept anybody. So they weren't going to accept an alien. There were going to be questions, and there was really going to just make his life a living hell. That's why his father tried to avoid him exposing who he is, because they were going to take him away. It's a different world and different environment. So I understood exactly what Zack was trying to do. So again, for those who say he wasn't Superman, well, again, he was just Superman for a day. When Zod arrived, he hadn't tested his powers. He didn't know the capability of his powers. He just barely learned to fly. So he's more or less doing what he can to stop a god. And there's two gods fighting, and there's going to be disaster. There's going to be casualties. So it was a very realistic portrayal of Superman coming into the world as we know it today. A very different world than the other 70s films. So you can't compare the two. Totally different things. And again, I know people wanted him to be the symbol of hope like he was supposed to be. But again, with Zack Snyder, that was going to take place over a series of films. Again, this is his introduction to Earth. Hence, the movie wasn't even called Superman; it was called Man of Steel. So I wish more people actually just sat back and took all their expectations, all their assumptions away, and attempt to see it with a blank slate. It's a grounded film. It's a wonderful origin story. It's a powerful film, in my opinion. It's well acted, well designed. The villain is fantastic. It's just a wonderful film, and it's a shame. A goddamn shame that we never got a Man of Steel 2, and we never will. But it is a masterpiece. Shazam 2: Fury of the Gods. You know what? Was this? No, this is Shazam 1. My apologies. This was fun. I enjoyed it. I really enjoyed that fun. That movie, it was like big. I remember there's a lot of comparisons to that, and it did have that fun energy of a kid becoming a superhero. And even when he was Shazam, he was still more or less a kid. I had a lot of fun with that. I really don't have anything else to say. The villain was mediocre, but again, it was mid for me, but I had a lot of fun watching Shazam. Great time. Let's see what else we have. Let's see. Shazam 2: Fury of the Gods. This one I did see in the theaters. And you know what? I completely forgot about it. I don't remember a thing about it. I actually just tuned out and just stopped watching it after a while. So yeah, I totally don't know anything about it. So nope. Forgettable. Let's move on. Suicide Squad, it was okay. Honestly, I'm going to say it's forgettable, but it's not as bad as everybody made it out to be. Yes, there were some editing problems. Yes, we know of what they did to David Ayer's cut. And again, he's always posting on Twitter excuse me, X about the film and how he made a great film. And again, I think we should all just let it go, to be completely honest. But at the same time, with James Gunn now at the helm, maybe just put it on demand, maybe on Max, and just let us see it for what it was. And you know what? I bet now that we've seen the original, vision of Zack Snyder's Justice League, and maybe if we see that, I think everybody will go in hindsight say, wow, you know, they were on the right track. We get the tone, we get the message they were trying to go with. They should have left it all alone. But again, that's hindsight, and it's always 2020. But again, Suicide Squad was okay. I don't own it, but it was a decent experience. And again, forgettable for me is what I'm trying to say. James Gunn's Suicide Squad. This one I did buy. This one I did enjoy. This one was a lot of fun. And again, I'm glad DC gave him the opportunity to go ahead and make this, because again, this was in between when he was fired from Marvel and he hadn't completed Guardians 3 yet. So he went over to make this rated R film, adult humor, very violent, very funny. It gave me exactly what the demographic wants. We want a fun film, but we also want it to be dark in tone. We want it to be violent. We want it to have adult humor. We want it to just be a memorable time. But also that DC flair, and he gave us that with like an ensemble of like 30 characters. Just that beginning scene where everybody died, including what's that comedian? I forget his name, but it was very fun. I enjoyed it, and again, it was one of my favorite DCEU films. And again, I'm glad he's got now the keys to the franchise, because I have high hopes for what he's going to do with Superman and everything else moving forward. I'm looking forward to that. I have complete trust in James Gunn. So Suicide Squad, very good film. There you go. The Flash. Okay. I gave this a poor rating when I saw it. And since then, I've seen it about 5 times, because believe it or not, my son, who's like 1 year old, he likes watching it with me. He likes the colors when Flash runs and orange. So I've seen it over and over again. And I think when I saw the film, I had such high expectations about it, because Tom Cruise had said it was one of the greatest films ever. So did James Gunn. So I had a lot of trust in their judgment. So I'm like, okay, this is going to be an amazing film. And when I walked out, I was really disappointed, especially with the CGI. CGI shouldn't be a main complaint that's going to make or break your film, but when it's heavily used as a storytelling device and it looks so horrible that it's distracting, that's where it starts being a detriment to the film. It was just so bad. And again, I don't blame the artists who were in charge of putting all this together. It was a shitty schedule. I'm pretty sure the rewrites had a lot to do with that. But again, it was so bad, it just took me out of the film. And anytime an element in the production takes you out of it, whether it's bad acting, a mic coming into the frame, or in this case, poor CGI, it kind of takes away from the experience. But I've seen it 5 other times. And again, removing the expectations, removing all those assumptions that I had, and just the expectations that I had overall, it's okay. It's actually really okay. It's heartfelt. There are some heartfelt moments. Some of the humor was very annoying to me. I've said that, and that still lands. But again, the heart of the film is just like a guy trying to save his mom. That's the heart of the film. That's the entire thing. And he's going through all these obstacles and going through all these situations to make things right. And he can't. And he ultimately has to let go of his mom. And that scene, Ezra Miller, again, love him or hate him, I can separate the art from the artist. That scene where he ultimately has to let his mom die and he's in the grocery store and he's looking at her crying, that's a heartfelt scene. There's a lot of heart in that scene. So again, it's not as bad as I initially thought it was. Again, that was just my expectations getting in the way. Seeing it again, seeing it for what it's worth, just paying attention to the story, and just seeing Michael Keaton was a lot of fun as well. This one was, in my opinion, very good. I enjoyed it now after 5 times. It grew on me. Again, not the greatest film ever. I'm pretty sure a lot of people hate it. Yes, it was a major flop of the year, one of the worst films ever as far as gross money. But again, just watching it over and over again and just seeing how my son's smiling at it, I'm like, okay, he's 1 year old. I get it. He doesn't know. But again, seeing it with him and just seeing it with a different lens, it's a good film. It's fun. It's fun. Aquaman, like I said, mid. Same thing as Aquaman 2. I walked in. It was very cheesy, very fun. That's just the world that Aquaman lives in. Very colorful. The story was fun, unique, and epic as well, with all these worlds coming to fight at the end. I enjoyed it. Again, it wasn't for me. That's why I haven't bought it. That's why I really haven't seen it again since I first saw it in theater. But it was average, so that's why I have it ranked in mid. Let's see, Wonder Woman. This one, oh my God, the first one was very good. a very fish out of water story where she leaves that one island and she's out in the world seeing it for the first time. She's got this naive about her. She's naive about the world and how it is and how it works, but there's an innocence to it. And it did really feel like the original Superman from 1977. Gal Gadot is just amazing in this particular film, along with the other co-actor, the guy, Captain Kirk, I forget his name. But I really enjoyed it. It was a great origin story. It did have that magical feeling to it, in my opinion. And Wonder Woman was very good. I enjoyed it. So there you go. Wonder Woman 84. I initially gave this a good rating when I first saw it. It was like Thanksgiving or Christmas holiday during COVID, I think. And I've had time to think about it over the years, and this is absolute trash. The story doesn't make sense. I know Steve came back in the film. She sees Steve, but it's not really Steve. Steve's just habitating a body. So she knowingly is having sex with this person who is not Steve. And she's okay with this person being hijacked and going through all these dangerous events and possibly can get killed. I think the guy had a family. I don't know. But it just made no sense in how they brought him back. It was just odd. The humor was very cheesy at the beginning. It reminded me of Superman 3. I'm like, okay, they're going with that Superman 3 type of tone. I'm like, okay, I can work with that. Very Christopher Reeve type of style. But again, it just fell flat for me. I haven't seen it since. It doesn't make any sense to me. So again, absolute trash. Can't believe they did that. They go from a high pedestal with part one and then make this movie. I think Patty Jenkins has had too much creative control. And whenever there's somebody has too much creative control without anybody to pull them back and then like, hey, maybe we shouldn't do that, aka Zack Snyder, aka George Lucas, things could kind of get a little crazy. The last two here, Zack Snyder's Justice League. If you've been following me, you know I love this film. I think it's a masterpiece. One of the best comic book films of all time, in my opinion. And again, it was everything I had hoped and wished it was going to be. And again, thank you, Sean Chandler, for inviting me to your house to see the screening for it back, in 2021. It was everything I wanted. And you got to think about how Zack was put in a tough position because, again, they rushed Batman and Superman meeting, and they more or less had to introduce Cyborg and Flash, give them enough screen time to give them an origin story that we can all relate to and understand where they're coming from. And this 3.5, 4 hour movie accomplished that. Yes, I know it's long running time, but again, when your leadership is forcing you to do so much storytelling in one movie, what can you do? You got to go with what they're telling you to do. But that movie, the tone is exactly what I've always wanted. And in the end, if Man of Steel, BVS, and this movie are all we're going to get, I'm completely happy with it. The tone is exactly what I wanted. And it's an absolute masterpiece. I've seen it like at least 7 times since. And I know it's a 4-hour movie, but when you're a fan, and I know the Zack Snyder fans, the Zack Snyder cult, people like myself, we all get a bad rap. And I can't speak for the people that just talk out of their ass and say stupid shit. I'm not one to advocate for hate in any way, shape, or form, but we're just fans of the world that was built and it was taken away. That's all it is. And when it's taken away and you're not really given a chance to see it kind of play out the way you had wanted it to, it's frustrating. And then when you share your frustration, like, we wanted to see it, and you're just mocked and made fun of it, it sucks. It really does suck. And again, I didn't participate with all that hate stuff. But again, we were just fans who wanted to see the final vision of the Zack Snyder's Justice League, and we finally got it. And it was everything I had hoped for. In my opinion, it's perfect. I absolutely loved it. And again, that's why I consider it a masterpiece. That takes us to the final film, BVS. Now, the theatrical cut, no, I'm referring to the Super Edition cut that came out like maybe a year later. I love it. I absolutely love it. I know the main complaint with this, I'm going to say it's very good. Now, I know a lot of people complain about BVS saying that it's not Batman, Batman doesn't kill people, etc., etc. But again, Zack Snyder and everybody involved were trying to give us something that we hadn't seen before. Now, think about it. We've seen Batman in many iterations, right? We've seen the origin a tale, but here they're giving us a tale of Batman who's been fighting crime for 20 years. He's bitter. He feels he's made no difference. He's wasted his time. Robin's killed. Everybody who's gone, everybody who's good eventually turns to evil. He says that's about Alfred. And that's why he says if there's a 1% chance of him turning evil, we got to take it as an absolute. That's just how angry he is because nothing's worked out the way he thought. He thinks he's wasted his time. So again, I get the Batman that he was trying to portray and show us a old Batman who had a very narrow-minded vision of the world. But again, he changes because not only is Batman narrow-minded and just angry, so is the world. The world's just conflicted. And Superman, who everybody was complaining about in the Man of Steel, that Superman is supposed to be a beacon of hope, he, in a Messiah kind of way, sacrifices himself by killing Doomsday and himself, but his death brings people to the light. He changed Batman. Batman makes a promise at his grave that, you know, I failed him in life, I won't fail him in death. The world now sees him as hope, as a beacon of what Superman is supposed to be. So through his death, he finally became Superman, and he was finally appreciated for what he was. And I know that's a lot of movie. I mean, Man of Steel was there. We didn't get a Man of Steel 2. We jumped right into Batman. He's fighting Batman, and then he's going to fight Doomsday, and then he's going to die. Like, that's a lot of movie. I remember seeing that movie at the theater and walking out exhausted because it was just so much story. I loved every minute of it, but I felt like I left a funeral. I was so damn tired. So I get why a lot of audiences didn't like that movie, but for me being a fan, I enjoyed it. But I enjoyed the special edition one better because it just kind of tied a lot of loose ends into it. But again, I understood the concept. I understood what they were trying to do. It made sense to me because maybe I'm a DC fan and I read the comics, so I understood not everything was going to be answered up front, where we're going to get more questions and more answers later on as the film and all the franchise and, you know, the whole series is going to come out, and eventually that never happened. But again, I think it's a very good film. Well, everybody, I hope you enjoyed my DCEU tier ranking list. Again, what are your thoughts on the DCEU? Put your comments down below. I'd love to hear from you. And again, this is over. This is my last video on this whole concept, this whole franchise. It's a shame we never got to see it become what it was supposed to be, the full potential of it. But again, I am very happy about the future. I'm very happy that James Gunn is now in control. And I'm very happy to see what he's going to bring us, because again, I love every James Gunn comic book film, and I love what he's done. I love that he takes risks, and I love that he's going to give us possibly some rated R commentary and films that are going to come out that are going to have some adult tones, but also some fun tones. And there's going to appeal to a lot of markets, a lot of audiences. But I'm very happy with what the future holds. I'm letting go of this franchise. I'm letting go of the David Ayer cut. I'm letting go of all these Zack Snyder cuts, the Snyderverse. This is my video saying goodbye to it. I love I love it for what it is. And I love the films that it gave me, a few of them as I've spoken to, but I'm letting go. It's time to move on. And I hope you enjoyed this video. If you haven't done so, please subscribe, like the video, leave some comments, and I will see you next time, everybody. Please take care. Good night.
Saying goodbye, why is it sad? Makes us remember the good times we've had. Much more to say, foolish to try. It's time for saying goodbye.